So there wasn't supposed to be a show today because I was supposed to be in San Diego today visiting my little brother and his wife for their baby shower. Yay! Congratulations. But Amtrak is generally unreliable. I've been off for a week and I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit. So since I'm home, I wanted to give a small little update. I know it's not as long as other episodes, but I wanted to just talk a little bit. And before I get into stories, I do want to let you know a little bit of why I've been so sporadic with my drops lately. So aside from being the cool freestyling the news guy, I am also the musical director of EVO. If you don't know what EVO is the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, right? It's legendary. If you've ever seen that clip of Daigo parrying a bunch of Chun-Li's kicks, that's EVO. I made the theme song for EVO a long time ago, and then I came back to do the music in 2022, and I've been doing it ever since. And it is a giant project. We basically do a whole album of songs dedicated to every single game that plays with these really cool specialized videos right before the top 8 finals of every game. If you've ever heard of the track Run Back City, that's me. It's insane. But we've had a pretty hectic week on that project, and it's been ramping up considerably. So this week I kind of had to take some time and deal with a lot of things. And then also I had my brother's baby shower, which I was planning on attending. Can't now. So that's why a lot of things have been kind of all over the place with Zaid talks and stuff like that. But thankfully, we've made some really nice headway on the project this week. I'm in a very, very happy spot with it, even though I was stressed the fuck out literally less than 24 hours ago. But I'm in a good spot right now. So I'm excited to hopefully get back to a lot more stuff in May, because we actually have to put on a lot of content in May. So I'll be back on the ground for y'all next week. Also, I wanted to let you know, in terms of when I can't do these big kind of segmented videos, I'm down to just do a small live stream where I catch up on news. I may start doing that in general, in addition to Zaid Talks and other stuff a week, so I can, kind of hang out with you guys a little bit more and cover a lot more stuff. Those are general, easier lifts, so I'm going to do that in addition to what I already do. Just something to look out for, and if you want to see live streams more in general, just let me know. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into the story I did want to talk about. The elections in Canada and Australia. This is actually kind of important. If you haven't heard by now, Canada's enormous 2025 election had a pretty unexpected result, with Pierre Poilievre and most of Canada's right wing getting their asses handed to them. Months ago, this seemed like a foregone conclusion and pretty much in the bag for Pierre, especially with the unpopularity of Justin Trudeau. But as Trudeau exited and Donald Trump entered, saying shit like Canada should be the 51st state and a bunch of other wild shit, Mark Carney, Trudeau's successor, took a firm stand, saying Canada is not for sale, and Trump's comments and vitriol drove Canadians to the polls to bolster the Liberal Party of Canada to 169 seats against the Conservatives' 143. The Liberals won the popular vote for the first time since 2015 and had the highest vote share for any party in a federal election since 1984. But the Conservatives actually did not do too bad either, even though they got their asses kicked. They actually improved their vote share significantly, while it was other parties like the New Democratic Party and Bloc Québécois, which actually suffered hits, with the leader of the New Democratic Party actually resigning. But listen, this was still stunning. So stunning that Pierre Poilievre actually lost his own seat, his own riding, right? Prompting another Conservative-elect to step down so Pierre could run in his place so he could still get into the chamber. However, with all said and done, that doesn't mean the work is over. The main focus now for Canada becomes Carney's meeting with Trump on Tuesday. The two men have seemingly already talked over the phone, with Carney saying that it's going to be a hard conversation, promising to resettle Canada's relationship with the US. After Carney himself said, "Our old relationship based on steadily increasing integration is over." But look, that's not the only election this week that took center stage. Australia had an incredibly consequential election, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese clinching a major victory. In fact, this is the first time a sitting prime minister has won re-election for 2 decades. And once again, it's a little hard to ignore how this specific result happened. Can you take a guess? Yeah, the right-leaning Liberal Party of Australia, don't ask. I don't know why the right party in Australia is called the Liberal Party. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Everything's upside down there. They have spiders the size of cats. Don't get mad at me if you're Australian. I love you and I want to visit. The right-leaning Liberal National Party of Australia lost handily under Peter Dutton, who decided to align himself with Donald Trump in so many fucking ways and all of the worst ones. He adopted a similar stance on immigration, on energy. He made a bunch of controversial remarks about Palestinian refugees. He wanted to end remote work for public servants. He was perceived by a lot of people to be out of touch, while Albanese's Labour Party was laser focused on social policies like reducing taxes, housing affordability, and so much more. And this was even a more resounding ass kicking than Canada somehow, because Albanese needed 76 seats to secure a majority. He got 87. And similar to Canada, yeah, Dutton lost his seat, and you had multiple reactions and celebrations to all of this, with many people saying that Australians had rejected hate and praising millennial and Gen Z voters for not falling for the divisive grift. But here's the thing, with all of this, the Canadian election and the Australian election, this is kind of what the fuck I've been talking about. At the beginning of the year, when Trump re-upped and upgraded his overwhelm everybody strategy, shifting his news breaks to Fridays, plugging every leak in the White House that he could to make it seem like we're all running together, we're all doing great, there's no problem, it's all going well. I said that there are political ramifications for how brazen and how aggressively he's moving. When presidents come in and do a lot of shit, even if it's helpful shit, right? But just in general, when presidents come into office and just start doing a lot of shit, it's generally seen as overreach. And when presidents actually overreach and have motherfuckers Zig Heil at their inauguration and cut AIDS funding to foreign nations and start fucking up vaccine rollouts and then start just beefing openly with the courts, yeah, that doesn't end well either. Trump has shifted what is a center-right political environment that elected him because they thought only he could somehow control and fix the economy with inflation and everything like that, to a worldwide referendum on the idea that right-wing culture war bullshit, only I can fix it politics are practical. And look, I'm not trying to paint everything with a broad brush, right? And be just hyper partisan and treat this like a team sport. No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm specifically saying that entire narrative that common sense means demonizing immigrants and being an asshole and being on podcasts that are like, oh, you have to be an alpha for economic success. That illusion is being rapidly shattered by how fucking bad these tariff rollouts and everything else has been over the last few months. And look, even with the big wins in Canada and Australia, and yes, even in the US with that special election that happened a few weeks ago, you're not going to find an easy win on Twitter or online forums, okay? People will still vociferously defend Trump. Trump will still sign wild fucking executive orders to like defund PBS or to threaten to arrest officials, and he's going to fight the courts and all that bullshit. He's beating his chest like never before. Yes, I have seen the executive orders he's written. I've seen all of that. But I've also been saying for months, I have seen this playbook. Okay? All right? We have all seen this playbook. It's old. All right? It is scary when you hear it for the first time. It is absolutely terrifying. It paralyzed me when I lived through it with George Bush. It paralyzed me when I lived through it with Trump 1. Okay? But it is less scary when you experience it for the umpteenth time and everybody around you has seen it before too. Once again, that is not saying that Donald Trump is harmless. Read my lips. He is not harmless. There is a lot of damage he can do, but also he is not impervious to political damage. Okay? If your only like metric of political damage to Donald Trump is his most stringent supporters abandoning him, I hate to break it to you, man, but like 300 years of American politics has shown that stringent supporters don't abandon their messiah. It just doesn't happen. But the people who are responsible for swinging to get him the election are abandoning him. That 30% or so of Americans who are going to ride and die for him, stop using that as the metric. Again, there are Americans who thought the Katy Perry Star Wars shit was great. All right? You can't convince everyone. But what both Canada and Australia should tell you is that people are voting for something. People have incentives they want met. And more, we're starting to see who is most likely to meet those incentives. A lot of press tours going on right now. This is an amazing result for Canada and Australia. and hopefully a sign for us in the future. Well, not the only sign. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's kind of the main story I wanted to talk about, but let's have one little extra story for fun. Let's talk about the Thunderbolts. So the Thunderbolts came out this weekend. It's been getting a ton of rave reviews, a lot of praise for this new entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A lot of people saying, oh man, Marvel is back. It's supposed to be fun and charming. It's supposed to be a very, very fresh take on the MCU. And so me and Maddie actually went to go see it on Thursday. And I can say pretty confidently, yeah, the movie is actually a blast, right? It's a lot of fun. I do largely agree. They got a lot of fresh stuff in here, kind of to inject some life into the MCU. But I will say it's not like the second coming of Winter Soldier, right? But it is a really solid entry into the series. I'm sure you've heard Florence Pugh is amazing. David Harbour is hilarious. You have the Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan, reprising his role. Really, really captivating to see on screen. And you have Wyatt Russell playing John Walker from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. He's super likable in this one. He makes that character his own. And then I don't think enough praise is being heaped on Julia Louis-Dreyfus. You can see shades of Selena Meyer in her character as she kind of tries to manage and maneuver around everybody politically. But this is something I actually brought up on Twitter that I kind of wanted to bring up here. A lot of people are calling this like a comeback for the MCU. The MCU has been dead for a while. Listen, I don't necessarily disagree that there have been like a lot of lackluster MCU movies. That's not what I'm kind of saying. But I am kind of saying a lot of people seem to have not read comic books before. It is something that I really thought about when like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War were coming out, because I kind of knew this crash would happen. If you've read American comic books before, you'll know that Marvel and DC will sometimes do these big events, these really cool, amazing events like House of M. House of M was this amazing event where the Scarlet Witch went crazy. And then she just changed the world where instead mutants ruled everything and humans were, she flipped everything on its head. And you have these alternate versions of Spider-Man and the X-Men and Iron Man, like all of these different variations of heroes playing out in their own books. And it was a really, really cool event. And then it was followed by Civil War, which, while it was a fun movie, was one of the most hated events in comic books. A great allegory for the Iraq War, but it completely destroyed Iron Man's character. And there were a lot of other events in comic books that got really, really messy. Peter Parker had this really cool moment where he got his black suit back and did Back in Black, where he tries to become like he's going to beat the shit out of Kingpin and break all of his rules. And then they retconned his marriage in Brand New Day in the most ham-fisted way. This is what I'm kind of trying to say. The MCU is experiencing what American comic books have experienced for the last 50 years, right? Really, really cool, amazing stories that after a while get really, really messy with different creators and kind of go off in different tangential directions because it's hard to fucking keep up with everything. You can't read every single comic book ever until all of a sudden the right ingredients happen and then you get Secret Wars, which, by the way, is the next Marvel big event. The thing that I'm happy about with superhero movies just in general, right, is I never thought we would get to this point. Like, I never thought we would have an interconnected universe or fucking Thanos. Like, I didn't think anybody would know who the fuck Thanos was, all right? Or that Captain America doesn't fuck with the government all the time. Or that the Punisher doesn't really fuck with cops all that much either. Well, the ones who wear a symbol anyway. The best part about comic books is watching them as character studies. Even the bad MCU movies, like when you look back on them, when you actually go back and you rewatch them, they're really fun. If you start to look at them from a character perspective, like Thor: The Dark World, you know, not the best movie, but it's fun. Even non-Marvel superhero Star Wars movies, everybody loves Revenge of the Sith. I grew up at a time where everyone fucking hated that movie. People incessantly made fun of Hayden Christensen's wooden acting, and now he is beloved. Reasonably, right? People love the character. People love those choices that they made. I'm not saying movies or the MCU are beyond criticism, right? Like, I'm not saying that superhero movies don't have that corporate problem. They absolutely do. But like the comic books that inspired them, superhero movies can be deep, enriching, and earnest, as well as a really good popcorn flick. You don't have to have mutually exclusive, like, highbrow bullshit to tell you that. Hell, even Sinners is inspired by a pulp action flick from Dusk Till Dawn. But all that to say, I think Thunderbolts is one of those movies, right? It deals with a lot of character emotions. The ending has some cheesy moments, but also some really earnest, like heartfelt ones. And the tone and the fun, like, oh yeah, what's going to happen next that you used to have in those MCU movies seems to be coming back in full force. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. Let me know what you think in the comments. But yeah, that's our small little show. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had to play with my cat. Sorry about this background. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be back next week. I appreciate your patience. I'm trying to do a lot of things at once. I am not good at juggling, but I'm getting better at it. My name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.